First, it was steer axles with coil springs, now it's transfer cases with orthodontic rubber bands. Here's a little project update for you all. Hello everyone and welcome! I've got some more custom RC building shenanigans for you all today. I thought I'd put together a quick video showcasing this little transfer case I built, which will hopefully prove to be a useful component for some 1/24th and 1/25th scale plastic model to RC conversions. You may recall a couple of months back, I posted a video where I was playing around with a custom tiny front steer axle that I built using basic hardware and some 3D printed parts. Perhaps the most questionable and unique aspect of that axle was the use of coil springs to transfer power to the wheels, while still allowing the knuckles to turn. As discussed in that video, not necessarily a perfect solution, but it seems sufficient for the kinds of super scale model to RC conversions I'd like to attempt using 4x4 truck kits. Ideally, they can be built with the same level of detail I've achieved with some more basic drivetrain layouts seen on some prior on-road car builds. Of course, if you'd like to check out that prior video, I'll post a link to it below in the description. Since then, I've worked on another component that will be necessary for a 4x4 build, and that's a transfer case. Compared to the front steer axle, this is a much more basic component that will sit between the motor and rear drive shaft, with power splitting off to a separate drive shaft to power the front axle, giving the vehicle four-wheel drive. I had two basic design requirements. First and foremost is that the transfer case needs to be compact, with its size little or no larger than the transfer case included in the plastic model kit. That way, this one that I'm making here can fit in the place of the one included with the model, without the need to hack away at the interior or chassis. The idea here is to make a static model functional with components that fit right in place of the non-functional engine and drivetrain parts. That's really the whole point of these builds. Performance, and to a reasonable extent durability, comes secondary to that goal, as otherwise I'd be way ahead just to buy one of the many great 1/24 scale crawlers and trail trucks currently on the market. If I wanted to, I could simply slap the model kit body on top of one of those chassis, like I did with this 1980 Dodge Ram Charger. Or just get something like one of the new FCX24M Land Rovers, which for $120 comes with a really nice injection molded hardbody with a comparatively more capable and durable chassis than what I'm looking to build. Both of those are great options, of course, and if you'd like to learn more about these vehicles here, I have links to those videos below in the description, but that's not what this project is about. Now, the second requirement is to keep the design as simple as possible. That way it's easier to build, there's less things to go wrong, and no expensive hardware or parts that need to be sourced. This transfer case consists of two 2mm shafts, 4 bearings, 4 M2 washers, a rubber band, a plastic case to hold everything together, and that's it. Super simple and hopefully durable enough for an extremely scale application such as a plastic model to RC conversion. With those requirements in mind, I opened up Autodesk Fusion 360 and designed the parts that you see here. Just a simple housing to contain the hardware and bearings, which could be FDM 3D printed and held together with some M1 hardware. These particular pieces of M2 hardware that you see here are just placeholders. Eventually this top shaft will have the motor connected on one end and the rear drive shaft connected on the other, while this lower shaft here will send power forward to the front axle. While gears would be a great option, they'd be more difficult to 3D print at this scale. Simply using some rubber bands designed for dental braces is a much simpler solution, assuming it works out. These here are extremely cheap, seem pretty durable, and they even come in these fun colors. Different sizes and strengths are available. While this size here might be sufficient, I do plan to order some slightly smaller and stronger rubber bands to experiment with. Now I can hear people saying, well, isn't that rubber band going to slip? That certainly is a possibility, even if I do install some stronger bands. However, that could actually be more of a feature than a flaw. Remember, this tiny front axle with power being transferred through springs is probably going to be a little on the delicate side, so I could see it potentially being beneficial to not force power to it if it gets into a bind. It's not like I'm demanding crawler performance out of these components. If they hold up and work better than expected, that's great, but a very mild trail truck is all I'm looking for here. Plus, keep in mind that the rear drive shaft will be directly linked to the motor. No power to the rear axle is being transferred via rubber band, only the front. So this rubber band could slip all at once or even fail entirely, and the truck will still move, though of course only with two-wheel drive. One possible solution, if there's too much slipping, would be to have more than one rubber band transferring the power. Only thing I don't really like about this design is that once the drive shaft sockets are glued into place, it won't be easy to open up the transfer case without potentially damaging the drive shaft sockets, since they'll need to be removed for the pieces to separate. I think it'll end up making more sense to just keep things brutally cheap and simple, rather than adding complexity just to slightly increase the serviceability. Worst case scenario is that the drive shaft gets damaged when being removed and I have to 3D print a new one. But anyways, this is just a simple little component that I put together recently. This is just sort of a back burner project when I need a change of scenery from some of the on-road and semi-truck chassis I've been working on. Like I said in the prior video, don't expect to see any build videos or STL releases anytime soon with these parts, but if a super scale 4x4 model to RC conversion is something you'd be interested in seeing, definitely make sure you're subscribed to this channel and stay tuned as I continue to chip away at this project. Right now I'm getting ready to work on the frame and suspension. Of course, at some point I'd like to utilize the chassis piece included with the plastic model kit and simply mount all of the drivetrain and suspension components to it, just as I've done with some prior builds. However, I figured I'd go ahead and design a simple adjustable frame to start out with while I'm still in the testing phase. I plan on going with a leaf spring suspension both front and rear, likely assisted with some coil springs to prevent those 3D printed leaves from flattening out. Again, very simple, and I just feel like leaf springs, particularly with something this small and so scale, would be very cool to see. And with some of the experience I have with prior projects in the same scale using 3D printed leaf springs, I think I can make the suspension nice and soft, maybe even a little bouncy, which I think would look right at home on an old school 4x4 Jeep, SUV, or pickup. But we'll see more of that in a future update. For now though, I'm going to wrap this video up right here. Whatever you're working on, keep on building, tinkering, experimenting, and thinking outside the box. As always, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.